Most corporate executives, says Amy Larkin, want to have it both ways. On the one hand, they want their companies to be treated like people when they use their money to influence elections and shape government policy. On the other hand, they don't want them treated like people when it comes to taking responsibility for their actions. Won't do, says Amy Larkin of Nature Means Business, but she says it from inside the boardroom. She shows corporate executives how to focus on long-term value rather than short-term profit, taking into account the fact that this planet is the only home of business, too.
We are already paying a carbon tax. We just don't know it. We're paying for it in the costs of extreme weather. We're paying for it in the costs of climate change, which are everywhere. Early arrival is extreme weather. And so that's the cost, that's the real cost of carbon. And if you want to say coal is a cheap energy, coal is not a cheap energy. Coal is the cause of mercury and acid rain, so you can't eat fish. Coal is the cause of climate change, so that there are droughts and hurricanes that cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Around the world, there are climate refugees. There are poor people in Africa where the temperature is now 50 degrees on a regular basis, where people used to have to walk 5 miles for water. Now they are walking 10 miles for water, or in the Marshall Islands, where they are losing their land and their agriculture because the ocean is breaching the islands because of climate change. You are already paying a carbon tax. You're just not paying it at the gas pump or for your electricity. This is the accounting that has to change. This is the business model that has to change. Connecting the effects of what we do with the costs of what we do when we do them. Not later, when it's too late and when there are bad consequences.
And the consequences are occurring elsewhere. Another one of the line from your book that I really thought was terrific was the price of coal is cheap only because it is subsidized by its own victims.
It is subsidized by its own victims. Imagine if you are a miner and you and all your family have lung diseases, congestive heart failure, your kids have developmental disabilities, you're in a boom and bust cycle, your farmland around you is no longer arable, your water is not good, you are subject to huge spills, not to mention conditions in the mine and very tough companies. So those are the first victims of coal mining.
And bad health for you and me.
Bad health for everything and everyone. When I was at Greenpeace, I actually was apoplectic. Every time I would read in the paper, well, in our energy mix, but coal is a cheap energy, people in the office would be saying, oh, here comes Amy, because I was so mad. It's not cheap. And I said to my boss at the time, I want to know what a kilowatt hour of coal costs. I got to find out. Give me some money to do some research. And she did. And we then ended up working for the next 2 years with Harvard's Institute of Global Health and the Environment and created the full cost accounting life cycle of coal, which showed that conservatively, coal is twice as much money as we pay in its real costs than what we pay for retail, up to 3 times as expensive. You pay 8 cents a kilowatt hour about for coal energy, even though it's costing anywhere between 16 and 27 cents a kilowatt hour for society. How about if we take those external costs and move them so that the incentive is there to pay the real value of energy when you use it, and to encourage everyone, including the utilities, to move towards distributed energy. It's a new business model.
Now, if you do that, if you say, okay, coal's now going to cost, let's say, 23 cents a kilowatt hour, the coal company now has a lot more money, but the people who are suffering from black lung disease don't have the benefit.
The truth is, they don't have more money, because that money, in other words, it's not that you give it to them. You pay for The healthcare, it's not, you're not giving the money.
Okay, so now we're actually talking, we are now talking about a carbon tax or something equivalent to
Yes.
that, right? So
Yes.
we're charging them up front, but that's not, that money is going into the general social welfare.
Correct.
And not into the pockets of
And at that point, we have to incentivize what is common sense. It's not like, oh, it's so surprising, we'd all be better off if there's more wind and solar and geothermal and small hydro and micro turbines, and people could, you know, plug in their cars at night, and, you know, all those things. It's not rocket science. It's not some grand idea. It's fairly straightforward. There is a schism in the business world, and actually, I think it needs to get stronger and sharper, because there are so many companies willing to step up and step out and say, we are going to fight for our planet because it's good business. And those companies that don't, may they rest in peace.
Amy Larkin, the environmental advisor who works inside the boardroom. If you're also concerned about full cost accounting and responsible corporate behavior, you'll probably enjoy our interviews with corporate critic David Corton, Patagonia founder Yvon Chouinard, and the Honorable Jigme Thinley, the former Prime Minister of Bhutan. For the Green Interview, I'm Silver Donald Cameron. See you next time.